have a rather special link with China because I've been actually the first Western musician to be allowed to play China just after Mao's time, after the fall of the Gang of Four. And it was in the early 80s, in 1981. And Chinese radio, just at that moment, for political reasons, decided to play for the first time non-Chinese music after 25 years of only Chinese music, chosen by actually Mao's wife. In the West, the pop culture, literature, books, music, films and everything, I mean, it's coming from the street. It finds a basis in the day-to-day life of our society. In China, it's actually fabricated. It has no link with the street, because in the street, they're not living their pop culture. The popular culture of China is not the popular culture of the West. So the looks and the style of the Western pop culture, the kind of imported behavior. My link with electronic music in China is very strong because I decided to leave behind one synthesizer to them and to say that they could think about creating the first ever Chinese synthesizer ever built. And they never saw synthesizers at the time. It was like being on the moon. The Japanese used to copy everything. To give a Japanese synthesizer that could be copied by the Chinese was something quite funny. Thinking that going to China is the future is not necessarily true. It's also going to the past. It's our past as well. It's one of the oldest civilizations in the world, so we forget that. When you go to the States is what, 250 years, 200 years. It's baby compared to China. So they can deal with modern or contemporary concepts in much quicker. China is so heavy because of it's a very old person, so you have to take this in consideration. And also, I've been recently, in contact with lots of people in Taiwan and Shanghai to discuss about the future of music and how we could develop a real bridge between the West and the East, talking about the intellectual property, the copyright, piracy as well, which is something quite, as you know, quite difficult on the Western point of view to deal with, and also how we could create that bridge between the Chinese artists and Chinese music and the Western music, how to promote Chinese music outside China, and how could we, as Western artists, being more visible, having more visibility in China. And obviously Chinese music, because their ears and their musical system for centuries is different. It's what I explained, and they're conscious about that. It's very difficult for a Western ear and Western taste to even understand Chinese music, and even pop. And even in Chinese music, you have this kind of happy tune and all that. And if you dig a little deeper, there is this huge sadness. It's like I was struck the first time I went to China by the look and the eyes of children. These children it was in time where people were just allowed to be dressed, as you know, in blue and green, and you only had the children were only under 5 were allowed to wear colors and bright colors. So you had in streets actually this extraordinary perspective of green and blue adults with kind of like multicolored flowers and children running all over the place, multicolored children. And I've always been fascinated by when you were looking and watching a child, or a child looking at you at that time, with very bright colors, so expressing a kind of happiness at the first time, for first degree, but deeply in their eyes, you could feel the sadness and the certain melancholia of what Chinese culture is carrying, what Chinese politics is carrying. And so also, maybe on an unconscious way, there is also a link somewhere that also made me China instantly very familiar.
Merci, monsieur, pour le chat bleu. Merci.
Yeah.
Et peut-être les initiales?
Allez.